On our morning show today from WRCO, Helmuth Krause is our guest. And Helmuth, we've mentioned his name, he and his wife Ruth, for a long, long time here in the radio station, but it's good to have him in here in the studio with us. And Helmuth, you've written a book. I didn't know that you were an author.
Well, normally I'm not. Don't even have very much education. But I decided to put in a book what nobody else would listen to me. I didn't have a voice, it seemed like. So I think everybody wants to be heard, especially when things happen that's not as they should be.
Sure.
So
you were born during the Depression back in the day.
Right, yeah.
And so you grew up with, knowing what hard work was, didn't you?
Right, yeah. I think most people then them days did.
And an appreciation, I think, for what you had, or and those kind of things too.
Right. Yeah. You were lucky that you weren't like some didn't have a job or a home and just traveled around just to get a meal.
Judging by your book, The Heart Remembers, it was never for lack of work. It seems like you had a lot of different jobs and things just to put food on the table, right?
I wasn't afraid of work.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the main thing. If people know you're willing to work, they will hire you. So.
You were in the service, by the way. Thank you for your service.
Right, yep. I was 4 years in the Air Force. That was... from 50 to 54 is during the Korean War.
So, Korean War veteran then?
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, 4 years of your life dedicated to that?
Right, yes, but actually, I didn't mind too much. I got to see a different part of the world and meet different people, and actually, not like we're preached so much in this country that... these people aren't like us, They are. They're just exactly like us. Mm-hmm. They want the same thing we do, a decent life and decent living.
Everybody has the same goal, I think.
Right.
What's best for their family, right? So, and you weren't born in southwest Wisconsin, were you? No,
I was born up in the central part on a small farm between Wausau and Merrill. It was still in Marathon County, but the Lincoln County line was only a couple of miles north.
You grew up on a farm. What kind of a farm was it, Helmuth?
Well, it was a small dairy farm. Like we had a dozen cows and probably a couple, 200-300 chickens and some rabbits. And... mainly, just to get along, enough to eat. So,
growing up during that time, the Depression, it was important to live on a farm because basically you had your groceries right there, didn't you?
Right, yeah. That's one thing I do remember, never going hungry. And that was important back in that day.
Yeah. Do you remember those days as good days, even though they were tough times?
Right, yeah. Well, just like now, there's good days, there's bad days, but all in all, you look back favorably on them.
So you got out of the service, out of the Korean War and out of that service, and then you went toward farming then, I understand.
Right, that's what I wanted to do, and it's what I knew. Mm-hmm. So I'm a country boy, I like the outside, and so that's what I went for.
How did you settle in southwest Wisconsin? How did you know about the Highland area?
Well, I didn't originally come to the Highland area. Well, see, my dad had a small farm. It was 80 acres. It was only about 40 of clearing, the rest of the woods. And I started out, I tried to get a government loan to expand it, It only, the way it was, it only support 12 cows or so. Well, it seemed that wasn't available. At that time, they weren't loaning money to small farmers. So, talking around, I heard, that the southern part of the state, after World War II, there was quite a bit these old farmers retiring, but they didn't sell their farm necessarily. They were getting young guys into running on half with it. So I'd talked to the county agent, and they'd got in touch with the county agent in Dane County it was. And yeah, they said that was happening down there. So I had farmed a year up there north and on my dad's farm, but I'd actually bought it. And but I realized I couldn't make a living there. So I asked my dad, do you know about, did he want it back and whatever he could do with it? Well, he says, I got to sell it. I can't do it. I need the money for retirement. So I bought it and I parceled it out, sold the timber and the land and sold what I had. And then I come down, I settled first at the Black Earth area. I was there a year, and then I moved to a farm in the Reno area. I was 3 years there. Then I had enough saved up then for a down payment. So I was looking for a farm, and and this one here up by Highland come up. It was one I looked at, and it was one I could afford. There were better farms all around, but this one was for $14,000, and I'd only need a few thousand down, and it could be on a milk assignment, Well, it's what I could afford.
Mm-hmm. $14,000. What year was that, Helmuth?
1959.
Okay. Wow.
It was 160 acres, and probably about 100 was open, but actually there's only probably about 65, 70 good acres that you could cultivate. Mm-hmm. The rest is hillside pastures and woods and stuff.
And then you had to get a herd and all those kind of things. You have to.
I had the herd at that time.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes, I did. I had a herd, and it was pretty much paid for. Actually, I got quite a break getting to know an auctioneer company by Fishner out of Mount Horeb. Bert Fishner. And he financed a lot of my buying cattle and stuff. So.
And I read in the book, W.D. Alice Chalmers. Was that your big tractor at that time?
Yep.
Did a lot of farming with that, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
And plowing your crops on the hillsides and things like that. You probably didn't know about hillsides growing up in central Wisconsin, did you?
Right, not too much. I mean, you'd have 2-3% slope, and down here, some I think you farm 25-30% slope.
Right.
It's quite a difference.
So then, so you farmed, you milked for a while, but you also had jobs off of the farm too, didn't you?
Well, I was having a lot of back problems, and finally the doctor says, you got to get rid of them cows and stuff. So I quit dairying, and actually I got a job down in Kenosha at American Motors, and I was down there, and I'd get laid off a lot. And I worked up at the university, I worked up at the powder plant, different jobs, and them kind of jobs didn't suit me. So I kind of worked for home and done a little trucking here and there and things like that. And then feed mill in Muscatine come up for sale. And that looked like a decent opportunity, so me and another guy, we bought that. And And we had that for 10 years. Then we sold that, and it was during the 80s there when we sold, and a guy offered us that, and it was connected with them big hog farms. And it was kind of put it to us, we could sell the mill, or they'd be putting in a convening mill. And so we decided they had deep pockets, we couldn't compete, so we sold. But they didn't stay all that long. And then they sold it to a couple of young guys, and one of them is still there, Dave Wiedenholt, and he's doing very well. And and that's really expanded now.
Yes, it has. Somewhere along the line, you met this beautiful woman that's sitting beside you here as well, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yes, I was. Well, I guess I was. About that time, I was going around, excuse me. On weekends, well, when you're young like that, you're looking for a woman. So I found her and had a couple dances with her and a few dates, and we started getting along, so.
The rest is history.
The rest is history.
How many years is that then, that you've been married?
Now? What is it, 56, 55? 55. It'll be 56 next August.
Congratulations there. That's awesome. Yeah. So, yeah, you, of course, back in that day, things could get a little wild on the weekends and things like that. You kind of document that in the book a little bit. You were a little bit wild at times. Yeah,
that was up north when they had a lot of dance halls and stuff. Yeah, yeah. Well, even down here, the dances are still going pretty strong yet. Well, I think probably in the 50s they were yet, in the 60s, and then they kind of all petered out.
Yeah. And the roller skating rinks, you had
roller skating,
Yeah.
I like to get around and stuff.
Sure.
I like to meet the pretty girls,
Sure, right. Helmuth Krause and his wife Ruth are in the studio with us today. The Heart Remembers is the book, and we'll have more coming up on The Morning Show. Our morning show get-together today, farmer, hard worker, syrup man, and now author Helmuth Krause is our guest. The book is called The Heart Remembers, Recollections of a 90-Year-Old Man. Helmuth, how did you come up with the title?
It's, it was kind of strange. About the time I was writing the book, I'd read where a lady had died. And this, she was part of a story here I'm going to tell. That when I was in the service, my brother got killed in an accident. I was overseas. Well, I wasn't released to come back home for the funeral. And this woman, she was a young girl there. I knew her before I went in the service. And she got together and probably got 50 signatures to the young people around that we knew. And sent it in an envelope, as a condolence for me, And when, like I said, at about the time I was writing this book, I had heard about her death, and I was going to date this girl when I'd come back out of the service, but then she was already going with a guy. But like I said, when she died, the heart remembered.
Okay, sure. So it's a deep meaning, the title there. Recollections of a 90-year-old man. Yeah. So lots of, I think all of us could write a book. I mean, did you always have that kind of thought in your mind that I should write a book, or was it kind of a later in life thought, Helmuth?
Well, it is later in life. Actually, it was a case in Grant County that probably was the biggest cause why this book was written.
Okay.
We'd bought a farm with an easement through it, and the guy had bought it earlier from the same guy we'd later bought the rest of the farm from. He'd bought the woods, and the easement went through right through kind of the middle of the farm to the cropland, pasture land. And after we was there a while, the guy retired, and he was building a log cabin, hunting cabin back on his land. But then after a while, he'd come up with the idea that he shouldn't have to open any gates at any times, and going through the pasture, he shouldn't have to go through where there had been cattle, And, well, when he'd bought his woods and given the easement, it was stated that he couldn't fence it, and he was to keep all gates closed at all times. Well, he kept bullying Ted, and that's my son, to fence it. So I started going to, well, I'd ask the county board, town board, if they could do something about it, because they violated easement laws, and they wouldn't do nothing. I went to the county board and stuff a number of times. It's all in the book, and they would do nothing. I went to the DA. Finally, at the end, I went to her office and sat down with the total trial transcript. The time had run out. Mm-hmm. So I had appealed to the Lawyer Regulation Board. I appealed to the Georgia Commission Board. All turned me down. Finally, he was talking about it, and one of the veterans in the Highland VFW said, why don't we get up a petition? So we did. And I'd got about 1,000 signatures about the middle of October, and I got on my open station tractor, John Deere 3020, headed up to Madison, to the Capitol, given to the Attorney General. Well, he was around the office, and I imagine he threw it in a waste paper basket.
You delivered it with your tractor, though. That's pretty impressive. I drove an open station
tractor. Nobody listened, like I said. I had no voice. And it was like, you're nobody. You're just this little damn farmer, part Indian. I served my country when they asked.
Right.
I worked all my life. I'm not on welfare. I'm just as good as anybody else, and that's another thing that kind of ticks me off about this country. We're all supposed to be even, but yet they put us in different classes. We're the lower class, we're the middle class, and the rulers are politicians, and those up higher, for some reason, they're the higher class. That's not what we're taught from our little kids in grade school.
Lots of frustration, Helmuth. Does it help you that you wrote this book, that you kind of get it out in the open and get it off your chest a little bit?
Well, yeah, that's kind of why I wrote it. I mean, we all like to have a voice. We all think we should be treated fair, and I couldn't believe this, what was happening. It took back me to when I was a little kid in grade school, when I seen my sister beat bloody with the blood running down her back, because somebody's going to beat the damn Indian out of her. I put this in the same category, only this was done in our justice system.
The Heart Remembers is the book. Helmuth Krause, the author, and the story with us today here on WRCO. For a man your age, you have a good memory. You remember dates and facts and things like that. You stayed pretty sharp over the years.
Thank you.
Must be that good living.
That's probably got something to
maybe
do.
maybe that maple syrup too. So tell me, when did you get into maple syrup?
Well, actually, it's after we sold the feed mill down in Muscadet, and well, I had a little time in my hands, and we could use the income too. And so I noticed there were a few hillsides around us and a lot of nice maple trees. And I remember making maple syrup when I was a kid, Well, why don't we try that? And, we can set up for a few $1,000s because the guy nearby had an old Viper he wanted to sell, and and so we did, and it worked out very well. Actually, we done real well on. We spent how many years was it in Madison at the Dane County Farmers Market?
30-some years.
30-some years,
Yeah.
Your own stuff. But you did it at first just for yourself, right? And then you kind of branched out and
Well, no, not really.
No?
It was our plan to sell.
Specialize.
We got bigger than we thought we did because, the first year it wasn't all that big in Madison, but each year after it was about the third or fourth year, I mean, we'd get sold out before the season was over. And one time we was putting in 1,500 taps there, and we couldn't keep up. But
that's a lot. So, what do you think the sap's going to be like, or the syrup's going to be like this year? Any ideas at this point?
I got no idea whatsoever.
You never know, then. I
You
guess.
never know.
No. So
Last year was one of our poorest years ever. The year before that was one of our best. So
does it matter if you have an open winter? They don't have a lot of snow, or
I always thought it's better if we have a deeper snow cover, because the ground don't freeze so hard to start with. So when you get the warm days in the spring, they'll start leaking a little earlier, but then the snow will keep it cooler longer again. So it seems to be a longer season, more even season.
Okay. It takes a lot of sap to make syrup, doesn't it?
The average about 40 gallon to one, yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Wow. So, and you've donated a lot. Tell me a little bit about, because you guys have done a lot for area food pantries and those kind of things. Why do you do that, Helmuth?
I don't know, just kind of help give people a hand up, I guess.
Help your neighbor a little bit.
Yeah. That's what my dad always told me, you help your neighbor, that's what neighbors are for. So.
And you're still on the farm?
We're still on the farm.
Still kicking away. So your family, you still milk cows? And
No, I haven't milked cows for a long time. And right now, mostly, like most winter now, I've been making wood.
Oh, okay.
Out this morning I spent probably about 3 hours out in the woods, and what I'm doing now is converting all my woods into either walnut or maple. There's so much hickory our way and bur oak and stuff, so I girdle these trees to kill them and then make wood out of them.
Okay. That's hard work.
Well, it keeps you young.
It must be. I was going to say, it must be the secret to your success because you're still out there chopping away.
Actually, this got nothing to do with the book, but I tell my wife it's because I got a bush on my farm. It's the aronaberry bush.
Okay.
And now she's making a kind of syrup, like a portion. I call it a portion, like Granny and a hillbillies always making.
Right.
And take a shot glass a day.
Talk up rheumatism medicine or something.
Well,
it's the fountain of youth, I think, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, no, you look it up on your phone or whatever, and they'll tell you that aronaberry is one of the best there is for the immune system and all that. So
okay.
Maybe it is something.
Something to be said for that, right? So did you have somebody help you with the book, Helmuth, or did you just pretty much type it out yourself?
I didn't type it. I don't type. No, I wrote it out longhand.
Okay.
And then I took it up to a teacher in Highland.
Oh.
That types, and she typed it.
Uh-huh.
Then another teacher went over it, correct mistakes or stuff.
Sure. Where can people get a hold of the book if they'd like to have this to read?
Well, right here in the Mission Center, there actually is two places. There's Waltz's Hardware, and then there's Ucha.
Cooch, yep.
Cooch bookstore, yeah.
Daniel Miller.
Danny Miller, a very nice guy, yeah.
Yep.
Go buy your book there.
Go have it there, absolutely.
Right,
so,
yeah.
But it's good. What I got out of it too is, I love to read about farming history, and how things were then, and I really enjoyed that part of it too when you're talking about getting started in the 50s and how much things cost, and I think people will appreciate that, Helmut.
I hope they do, yeah.
Absolutely. Anything else you'd like to add about the book today? Come out and buy it, and you'll even autograph a copy of it, I think.
I will have to autograph.
You got another book in you, do you think? Or is this it?
Well, I don't know. If I live long enough, I might.
There you go. More experiences, right?
Yeah.
More life experience.
But they also get it at different places, like Spring Green.
Arcadia, I think it is.
Arcadia also. The library's got a donation. If they can't buy it, check it out. Dodgeville, I donated a book to the library. Also, Middle Point Library. Let's see. Montford's got a book.
You made the rounds.
Well, somebody else bought the one donated to Montford Library, but let's see who else. But they can buy it also at Branches and Roots in Dodgeville, and McNeil's Appliance Store handles the book. At the one in Middle Point, Aspen Ridge handles the book.
Okay.
The popcorn stand in Montford handles the book. And of course in Muscave, Walter's Store and also the feed mill handle the book.
Lots of good pictures in there too. I like pictures when I'm reading the book. It kind of helps that.
Yeah, it's things important to me I put in the book.
Yeah. Family pictures and then different clippings and things like that. So it's a good read and a good history lesson here.
That's what everybody tells us, It's written a little different. It's kind of like I'm talking to somebody rather than chapter this or chapter that.
Right. Yeah, like first-hand accounts. So.
But we've been getting real good feedback. Everybody's read it seems to love the book.
Awesome.
And I understand there's a couple 5-star ratings on Amazon. So.
Ooh, good. Who's going to play Helmuth Krause when they make the movie about it, though, huh?
Well, there's the story there. That's a kind of joke, but I figured that was somebody scamming me, trying to set me up for a scam.
Ah.
I got somebody out of California. What's the name of the company? Anyway, they was telephoned me quite a number of times, and they wanted that was it. They wanted to sign me up. They'd be my agent, and they had another guy come in and said they'd give me $850,000 for the rights to make a movie.
Really?
Really. But here was the catch. I would have to come up with a writer of what, like a writer in a movie before that. And they had, and so I sent them a couple of things what it could be. No, that wasn't that. But they had this other company that could do it for me. But he wanted $3,500 to do it ahead of time. Well, this guy, and it was the guy that had telephoned me first. See, in that time, I told him, well, I'd give you 10% of something if you got anything. So then I told him, well, you just simply take this $3,500 on this out of this 10%. After I get the $850,000, so then they dropped it.
That didn't go well.
They didn't do that.
Well, you offered him something. You offered him a deal, right?
Absolutely.
Well, it's been a pleasure seeing you again today, Helmuth. Thanks for coming to the studio.
Thank you very much for having us.
You bet. It's been awesome. Helmuth Krause joining us. The Heart Remembers, Recollections of a 90-Year-Old Man. And again, you can stop down and see Daniel at Okuch Books and Libations or any of the good area bookstores. Walsh's here locally as well that carry books.